So we got Scott Young at Western Fair here today.
Yes, perfect. Nice little background view. Looks good to me.
Use this as my my private little
Little
betting
lounge.
room.
Yeah, exactly. You
Come
got
in here,
you got the
watch
best
guys.
view at it. You got the same view as the judges. You get the head-on shot right in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good.
How
Thanks
many-
for having me.
How many drives you had on this track?
Total? Oh my God, I wouldn't know. I've been driving at London since I believe I was 18 was when I got my license. I'm going to be 10 years this February actually since I got my license.
And this is where you got started?
I started in February, so it was Flamborough, and it was mainly where I first got like a lot of drives because I obviously just starting, and then the summer was better. You know, I went to Georgian and Grand River and stuff. But then I would say that winter, I started getting work in London. But it picked up probably when I turned like 19. I started coming when I was like 19. But total drives, I wouldn't have a clue. I think I got maybe like 7,000-8,000 life, and I would say, got to be 3 and change probably, or
So you've won a few races.
I've won a few
around
races.
the
Yeah,
Silver.
no, my favorite night here is definitely Molson Pace night on the big night. You know, because it's good too because they got grassroots and the City of London finals too, right? So that's always my goal: try and get one for at least every division of the City of London, or at least a couple of them anyway. And then
It's probably a tough race to get drives in the Camelot Classic, right? Because people ship in horses. And
100%. Like it used to be a little easier because they had a limbs, right? I was actually fortunate enough to drive in a limb once.
Mm-hmm.
I got to drive Secret Weapon for Wayne Prescott. I think I was 20, something like that. So it was like I was just on cloud 9. I actually have a picture of I'm shooting the rail going to the half, and John Campbell's outside of me with Razzle Dazzle, and it shows John and me, and it's like my favorite picture ever because John's against me. So
Did you beat John?
No, I didn't beat anybody that day. He had to be top 4 to make the final, and I was 6th in a 6-horse field. But
Nice.
it just to even be in it was really cool. But now with the invite only and with the drivers coming with the horses, it does
Gets tougher.
it makes it a little tougher. But if I ever had a top horse that was racing here, I'd definitely be in. That's for sure.
It's got to be one of those races to win.
Oh, definitely. Like any of the big ones in Ontario, like. You get that one, and then Confederation Cup, now that it's even for 4-year-olds, but even when it was for 3-year-olds, it was huge. And, then any of them at Mohawk, you know what I mean, would be a dream just to be in, let alone to win one. So.
What's your win that
The
stands
jug.
out to you?
Oh, that I want to win, or that I have
that you
one?
have one.
That I have one? It's probably going to be this year, actually. I was fortunate enough to win a gold at Georgian. Yeah, it was my first ever $100,000 race, or over that I got to win. I've been in a couple of 100,000 plus races, but I got to win one this year with CrossFit Mouse for Luke Blay and Determination. So that was really cool. Yeah, I had a great year for Luke. I definitely have to dedicate my summer to Luke and Determination. I was very fortunate to be able to drive some in Dream of Glory and get to drive in some golds. And then anytime you brought something to Grand River or George, and they fit pretty well, so it made my job easy.
Nice. It's got to be it's kind of a weird thing about being a driver, right? Like you get your. Any horseman, it's feast and famine. They talk to trainers specifically. It's like they'll go through months without making any money, and then all of a sudden you get a big score. But I mean, it's sort of like that as a driver too, right? Because you can have a big payday.
Yeah, no, exactly. The slumps are definitely a thing. It's true. You try and when it's rolling, you try and keep it going as long as you can, right? But it's just like anything. I think it's the same for ball players and hockey players and everything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When things are kind of not going your way, you just can't get frustrated about it. You just kind of have to keep showing up to work, and it's gonna change eventually. But
So when you were real young and you're just getting going, what's kind of the when you don't know what you're going to make?
Yeah.
What do you do? Do most guys work in a barn in the morning?
Yeah, I always had a job. I still do now, actually. I ride for Chantal Mitchell in the mornings.
Yeah.
But I normally do in the wintertime now because I've been, the last 3 years, I guess, I've been fortunate enough to be pretty busy in the summer and make a good enough limit in the summer. I don't need to work throughout the summer. But wintertime, obviously, it slows down. There's not as much racing and not as many tracks going. So
there's sort of an element of that. Is every driver is going to do that forever, right? Because they're going and finding the next babies they want.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's good, too. I find it's good to be at a farm, working for somebody through the winter because, even if you're doing good, you still show face to all the trainers and they see you and they want to talk about your night before. And, if you happen to be in the right place at the right time when it comes to be March or April, they start biking babies or, going quicker miles. And if you happen to be standing there, you want to go with one. And then come June or July when they go to qualify, if Jody or James or whoever's got 4 in one qualifier. If you've maybe trained it a month before, you might get the spin, right? So it's always good to show face for sure.
I kind of feel like that as an owner. Like, I mean, with my filly last year, Bob McClure went right from the qualifier, right? And like, so if you got somebody who'd even been out to your farm jogging or training a horse, it's like that. There's a little bit of
confidence for you too, because the driver knows your filly already. Like, there's nothing wrong with a guy hopping on, obviously, on qualifying day. But even myself, like, if I've trained one in the bike once and then schooled it twice and then qualified it, like, by the time I go to race it, like, I know pretty well the ins and outs of what it can do or what it can't do. You know, so that definitely is good for a driver, especially with a young one, a young 2-year-old. So because like I said, you know what they're up to, but and you know what it can and can't do. So you just kind of have to watch the rest of them. You know what I mean? But babies are where it's at for me. 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. Like, I love driving younger horses. Teaching them how to race, and my theory is they all will eventually learn how to leave. That doesn't take very long for them to learn how to do that. But if you can teach a baby how to follow and cover them up and sprint when you want them to sprint, you got an opportunity to make them into a nice racehorse anyway. So, but that's my favorite part of being a driver anyway, driving the young ones.
Feel like you can win races off the pace in places like this?
Yeah, no, London's harder than Flamborough, if you ask me. Like, London, if you get to make front easy and get a second quarter breather or get a middle half your own way, you're pretty well home free. You know what I mean? The stretch is not overly long,
it's pretty short.
It definitely holds the front end. But then again, like, if you race one off the pace, you're sitting second or third over, and they're going like a crazy half for what the caliber of horse is, and they're down a half like 57, and like a minute is going to be a max back half. Well, if you're sitting third over, it's not a horrible thing by any means, right? But
I've seen a few of those where somebody sweeps 3 wide here in the back stretch because they're just all done.
All done, and they do cave, and that's the thing about London too is, Flamborough you can wait to the last turn to move because turns are a little more banked, and then you kind of got to kick into the straightaway. Unfortunately, here in London, you kind of have to be on the move maybe a little earlier just because the turns are so sharp, and even though you're maybe not making a whole lot of ground up in the turn, by the time you hit the straightaway, you don't have that far, so you kind of have to make sure you're already in gear and kind of got your move going, right? But I don't mind half-mile racing. In my opinion, I find there's too much of it in Ontario. Like, I love Georgian Downs. People complain about the drive, and it's not a great drive. I'm fortunate enough living in Guelph that I don't have to touch the 400, so I can go back way, and it's the middle of the summer too, so that makes life easier. But I just find, it's 3 months, same as Kawartha, same as Sarnia. I know Kawartha and Sarnia don't go for as much dough, but there's only 3 months of 5/8 racing, and there's a ton of horses that I drive that just are nowhere near as good as they are on a half mile as they are on a bigger track. But they're not quite good enough for Mohawk either, right? So plus I like half mile. It's you got to normally be forwardly placed, like you normally do. But then again, like I said, if you get a big half, sometimes it'll work out in your favor. But at Georgian, it doesn't really matter. You can be on front and get a cheap half, and it doesn't even make a difference sometimes. You know what I mean? Or then again, they can be down a half in 55 at Georgian, and you go a mile in 52. So second over still don't make a difference. You know what I mean? So no, I really enjoy the 5/8 racing for sure.
When my dad was at the top of his game before he's just training now, retired, but when he was at Georgian Grand River, I mean, he had a brand new race bike that not too many people had at the time, and it was crazy because he was winning from last. Like, he'd get on the front from time to time too, but it was like he'd sweep the field from last.
Oh, exactly. And I find that too at Georgian. Like, if you're even third over, I still don't think you're really out of the race. Going 3 wide into the last turn at Georgian, we call it suicidal because it's tough because they're always going left and you're kind of going out. But if you can wait till halfway through the last turn to move, if your horse got enough kick, you're definitely in range at Georgian. You're definitely not out of the race, that's for sure.
Coming from a non-driver here, I mean, I've got probably about 20 training miles into my into my suit there. But one thing I think in a lot of half-mile races I see is drivers coming out of the last turn in particular. The driver on the lead is going to step on it coming. They're either going to accelerate earlier in the turn, or they're going to step on it coming out of the turn if they haven't yet.
Yep.
And somebody will tip, and they'll be going out wider. Well, the leader is accelerating. And it's like you lose
2 lengths, or
it's like you're gone.
It's tough. No, for sure. It obviously depends on the horse and the type of race you're in and the type of quality, right? But if you're sitting a tool behind and you're driving decent animals like at London, you can wait till you straighten up to move, because if you try and pop the tool on the last turn, you do have a good chance of losing 2 lengths, right? But you race at a place at Grand River, inside's just impossible. Like the passing lane, in my opinion, they might as well just take it out because it's not even. By the time you get your horse in it, straighten yourself up, the race is over. Like it's got to have the shortest stretch in Ontario, right? So if you get a choice to go in or out at Elora, you're better off to be out, even if it's not the the unwritten rule, maybe not the right way for what you're supposed to be doing. Like at Grand River, it's just what you have to do. You know what I mean? When you come to Flamborough, I'd rather stay in because the passing lane, you can actually gain ground. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather go in than out when it comes to Flamborough.
Does any of that ever, do you think, the horse, like, I've always wondered that, is the horses naturally pass on the outside because they're trained to do that, and some of them
there's a few horses that like when you drop them the first time in the passing lane, they just drop the bit, they don't know what to do, right? Like because they've never actually had to go in before, less than go out, right? But then again, there's you drive some of the older climbers that know when you move them to the outside they don't really want to go by, so you can sometimes trick them when you go inside. They'll go by on the inside because they don't really feel like they're going to pass, you know what I mean? So but like I said, it all really depends it depends what type of horse you're driving, you know what I mean? Like
I got one more question about driving here.
Yeah.
There's no passing lane on this track, but I'd say at least, I don't know, 1 out of 4, maybe more, the lane opens up.
Yeah.
How much when you're on the lead are you thinking about keeping that horse behind you, and how much are you
I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself, but again, it depends on the type of horse you're riding. Like tired horses always drift.
Yeah.
Tired horses always drift.
We know
right?
that drift.
Yeah.
Some of them drift real bad.
Yeah, and whether, and I'm not sure gamblers appreciate this, right? But if a guy lets me go, like, halfway down the backstretch and I'm on fumes turning for home and I can tell he's over with, you try not to just move over 4 lanes so he can get up the rail, but you definitely let your guy drift to give him a fair chance because he might not be letting you go very much if you're going to hug the rail on him, especially after he let you go, you know what I mean?
So it's kind of like you want to get to the wire and you're not going to check your horse just to keep
him pinched, right? But then again, it's also, if I'm done, but the outside field I know is not going to get me, and if I let this guy up the inside, he's going to beat me. Sometimes you can move over enough so he can get his horse through, but he can't get his bike through, so like he could still be second, but you can't win, so like there's that strategy. And there's also strategies too, like if I'm tons the best, and the one that I know that can beat me is on my back, well, you're never getting out of there, you know what I mean, right? So like, again, it all really depends on what you're, but like I don't mind the non-passing, like, because it also makes you, when you're sit third or fourth, like, especially with the cheap horses, most guys are on the move, right? Because third along the rail in London, if things opening up, it's happened, but it doesn't always happen.
Not for the win, really.
No, exactly. But it makes you think, though. It does, which is good. I find if you gotta, Tim Tetrick one time said that it's like a chess game. You know exactly where you are, which is what I agree. So where is everybody else, or where are you going to position yourself to position everyone else, right? So he says you know where you are. He said you just have to try and outdo everybody else, which is a very, very good point of view for being a driver, I find.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why if the smarter drivers being on the lead on tracks like this can really take advantage of it, because if they know who's on their outside, like you said, if the winner's behind you and you got a horse beside you who can never go by, I mean, you're pretty happy.
You're not going anywhere. Like, so I mean, and you can even sometimes if the guy's behind you and you don't want him to be even third, you can back your horse in so this guy's second. Meanwhile, if you were to step on the gas to win, that guy's going to be second, and maybe even one off his back will be third, and this guy will be fourth. But you can even just back into him enough so he's even second. You know, but it's funny, they got the jumbotron here, and they have it at Mock. They don't have it at Flamborough, and I don't really feel like I needed a Flamborough, but if I'm ever on the front or even the 2-hole here, I do use it to my advantage, because I just take a look. Two things. One, like if I like to see who's first up or who's going to be first up, you know what I mean? Because sometimes, like if I get away third and I see someone's coming first up, I can be like, well, I don't really need to be on the hurry now because I know I'm going to get out coming out of the turn because he's not going to advance. Or if I see a guy coming first up, maybe I should be on the move here because if he comes first, you know what I mean, I might not be able to get out. So just like even at Mohawk when the gate picks up, like when we leave, right? Yeah. If I'm leaving and I see, if I'm getting away, let's say third, and I know who I'm letting go, I take a look over sometimes at the odds to see what odds they are. Plus I see who's getting in behind me. You know what I mean? So it's kind of it's there, but it's also a little bit of a strategy thing because you can kind of see where everybody's landing too, right? So it's kind of funny because in Catch Driver when we switched from we had the 2D top-down view to behind it, right?
People could see all 10 horses.
Yeah,
it was cool because you could know exactly where everybody was. And then
now you actually have to turn.
We get a lot of complaints.
Oh, right. Like, now you know where everybody
I can't
is.
drive. This is hard.
Yeah, well, you actually have to look now, right? No, that's for sure. But I like the new view because you can do a 360 with it, right? You can turn
I don't change the camera at all.
Oh, really? You stay head straight ahead, yeah.
Because we give you a little mini map where you can see.
Yeah, but I've seen guys turn their head to see how close they are and stuff like that. Yeah. But I like that view way more than the view before.
It's a better game for sure.
Yeah.
So. Are you any good? Have you?
I'm okay. I played what was the first one you come out where you did your stable? What was that one? Often pacing. Yeah. Sorry, that was the first one. Yeah, I did it, and then when the new one came out, I did a little bit of driving. But I'm you're gonna hate me. I don't do it as much as I used to. That's for sure. But I'm okay. I got better at it the more I played. That's for sure.
It's actually funny though. We find that the drivers only really like often pacing because they drive every day.
Yeah, so they just manage their stable.
To have a stable of 100 horses, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
But then the owners and trainers and stuff,
they probably like the driving. Yeah,
they, they're thinking, Scott Young, I could drive better than this guy.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Like when I did, like actually the range in the stable, like I didn't even get that far where you had to have like 1 million coins to breed your horse and all that. Like there was a couple of them. Like I remember Jay Harris and a few other guys were doing it full tilt, and I was like, I don't have enough time to do that, right? But I actually, if I had to pick, I like the driving one, right? Because nothing worse than having a horse that doesn't have a whole lot of energy, and then you try and save it for as long as you can, and then when you move it over, it still doesn't go. I'm like, do you ever get that feeling out on the racetrack sometimes too?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that like people are used to car racing games where you go as fast as you can and you corner as fast as you can.
Yeah.
And it's like driving a horse. That's not what it's about. Right?
Yeah, even when you're tracks too, it's not like you have all one size track, which I like. You got half mile, 5/8, and a mile, right? Yeah. So the half mile tracks, like, it's the same in your game. You sit third on the inside the whole way on a half mile track. You're on your game. You're probably not getting out either.
So when you're driving in a real race here, kind of like, are they all unique in how far they can go full tilt for? Like, do a lot of horses have one brush and they're done? What are you?
I'm using everybody else's things I've heard, but it's true. Like John Campbell one time said, they're an elastic band. They'll only stretch so far. He said if you stretch them too far, they're going to break, right? And then they can. And horses are the same way. Like there's horses I drive that if I keep them buried up for 3/4 of a mile and then give them one move, they got a wicked move. Where even if I was to come second over with it and then move it, it would have like not even half the move. Just because even though you're keeping it on a helmet and it's still using its energy to even keep up second over. You know what I mean? And then there's horses that I've drove where I thought I've drove them terrible and they still keep going. Yeah. Like I've left all I could, moved them first up, and then turn them for home, and they're still hanging around it, and I have no idea. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, in my opinion, you should be done. You know what I mean? You should be long.
Some of them are just tough.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They just. I mean, classification. It's the best thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like you gotta. People don't do it because there's unfortunately a shortage of horses in Ontario, but like. A good 10 climber makes even a better 8. You know what I mean? So like when you drive one like that, you can almost afford to drive it a little bad, and they'll still hang around. Yeah. You know what I mean? Those are the best kind as a driver. You know what I mean? But I'm a trip guy. Like I like obviously I can cut one when you have to, right? Yeah. Like when you got the good poster, you're on a half mile track, right? But being second, third over, like sitting third or fourth on the rail and squeezing through and shaking free and winning, those are my those ones I almost take a little pride in almost, you know what I mean, just because you actually had to do a little work to get to the winner's circle.
There's definitely a class of driver who puts themselves in that role and gets known for tripping horses out.
Yeah.
I mean, I still see Randy Waples at Woodbine tripping out some horses that are just like,
how
did he come up with this?
Well, and some of them don't even appreciate it too. Randy, he's somebody. People, I've been very fortunate. People say I look a lot like him on the racetrack. I sit the same. So I said, if they said if you could have Randy's career, that'd be okay, and that's by far okay. Like even half of his career would be good by me. You know what I mean? But he's one of the best I find at finding a second over trip or like I said, shaking free and sometimes you put yourself in a bad spot, and that's why they call it horse racing. You know what I mean? But but if you ever can shake free and you know what I mean and get lucky,
Did you watch a lot of these guys when you were younger? And
every one of them.
Yeah,
every one of them.
Is it cool being out there on the track with some of these guys who've been around for the last 20
Oh, absolutely. Years? Fortunate, really. Dream come true, I guess. Like even I've been driving at Mohawk here the last month, and it is
crushing them at Mohawk.
Yeah, easy with the word crush. I had a good week, but Yeah, no, yeah. Honestly, it is a dream come true. Like my whole life growing up as a kid, I grew up with Scotty Zeron and Dougie and Jonathan Drury and all them, and that's just what we talked about. We're just going to drive at Mohawk our whole life, and simple as that. You know what I mean? And Scotty and Dougie have just they've taken it to the next level, but they're extremely talented dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's sort of an exception to the rule where I was talking to Greg here about. A lot of guys put in, a good 1,000 wins on this track. Before ever making a move there. Those two had a pretty quick start to their career.
Well, opportunity is key. And don't get me wrong, you have to have talent, and you have to be able to back it up too.
You
right?
gotta have the talent, you gotta be able to.
You can have all the opportunity in the world, but again, it's just like football or anything. Like if you could be the best quarterback in the world, but if you're not on a good team, it doesn't matter, or vice versa. You can have a great team, but if you're not very good, it doesn't matter. But Dougie got his license, and his dad trained 50, which helped. You know what I mean? So then he won the Battle of Waterloo for his grandmother at 18. So that just took right off. And then Scotty, he got his license, and I think Rick had 40 at the time. And then when he started doing Hanover and Grand River stuff, he got to drive all Victor Putties, right? The Putty had like a 45 horsepower at the time too. And just like anything, once you start winning and driving, and you become a better driver with the better horses you drive. Because it doesn't matter when you're driving a bad horse what you do, whether you sit in or come out, and they both finish in the same spot. You almost lose confidence in yourself because you're thinking to yourself like, it's got to be me then. You know what I mean? But it's not you. It's what you're driving. You know what I mean? And I think that's a lot to do with catch drivers. Like, don't get me wrong. I think there's guys that got wicked talent that can make a horse go really, really fast, right? But if you're driving the best horse in the race, I don't care if I'm driving it or Yannick Gingras driving it. He's probably going to win. You know what I mean? It's just how it is. And I'm not calling myself as good as Yannick, but it's just true. You know what I mean? Like, if you're driving the best horse,
there's definitely some races like that where it's just like, okay, don't screw up. And I guarantee the driver's thinking that.
Oh yeah, I've had it too. Like there's been at times like, like you're 3 to 5 going for whatever purse, right? And on paper you're the best, and everybody knows you're the best. It's just let's just hope this 2 minutes goes as planned.
Yeah, hope nobody runs me.
Yeah, exactly.
Get clear lane.
No, for sure. But doing the driving against, like you said, against those guys, the top guys, like it's really a dream come true. Like to look over and, even the guys now, like you driving against Randy, Chris Christopher, Paul McDonnell, Mike Safdie, Sylvain Filion, like them guys got multiple thousands of wins. Jody Jameson, I think he's like one away from 8,000 or something. So
legendary career.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's just. You can learn stuff from those guys too. Like everybody says, do you learn anything? I say, I learn something new every time I go behind the gate because no race is the same, right? It's different every single time. You know what I mean?
They're pretty good at telling you what they think you should have done.
I sit on the other night. They're always, and I don't mind. I've been getting tortured my whole life, and I come by it honestly. So it's not I got enough YouTube videos to show that, so it's fine. But I said, when does the initiation exactly stop, or is it just a continuous thing? And they all said it's a continuous thing. So I said, that's as long as I know, that's cool by me. But
as long as you fall off a race bike once every 10 years.
Once every 10 years, that's all. Curtis McDonald will keep me famous. You know what I mean? But
I think we all take our turns. I've shared it once or twice on Facebook and Twitter. It's got to come back up.
It's a minimum. The shares get higher and higher every time, but whoever shares it first, right? It's always a 2 or 3 time share thing a year, basically, right? So But it's been going on for my whole life.
It's just too perfect. It's like the way you did it. It was like,
I know. I actually, because Garnet Barnsdale did a story on me, and I explained it there about 2 weeks ago. But when it happened, I said to myself, because I know that camera's there. So when it happened, I said to myself, because I had the 7 holes, so I said sometimes they've switched to the post braid already, right? But we're talking about me, Ryan, so it hasn't switched to no post braid yet. All right, that's just how it works, right? So I said to Billy Davis in post braid, I'm like, you have no idea what just happened to me. So I tell him he's losing his mind, and when I come in, James McDonald was the first person I seen. I said, no way, and he was like, Curtis has already got it.
I feel like there's been some other ones that haven't got their fair share of credit. I think Anthony McDonald in the winner's circle went to sit on that.
Yeah, he fell off.
Broke off, and
but
it went down.
Every time there is a video like that, they all were like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." But have you seen Youngies?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like everybody just comes back to mine. You know what I mean? Which is fine. Like I said, who knows? I got like 30-some odd thousand views. I said, who knows? Maybe one day I'll get on a talk show or something. Jimmy Fallon or Ellen or something. They'll be talking to me. What will happen?
You're famous off the track. That's in the paddock. You're famous. You got the Ontario Racing
commercial. Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
That was sweet. Yeah. again, totally lucked out. Really, Marnie, the paddock judge of Flamborough, had asked me, Scott Coulter, Tyler Moore, Jay Harris, Jason Ryan, kind of asked all of us if we were interested in being in a commercial, and we said sure. And it was from like 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. 3 days in a row.
Yeah.
And the first day we just shot a bunch of work on the track, just did a bunch of like a ton of different shots, trucks with cameras, drones, you name it, just doing a bunch of stuff. And then they came to us at the end of the first day and they pointed to me. They said, "You're going to be the guy that wins the race, the final race." So then I was like, cool by me, right?
Yeah.
So the next day we did the winner circle shot, me holding onto the trophy and holding onto the horse and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And then we did little bits. We did little bits in the driver's room, but they filmed me, but then they would also film the rest of the guys, you know what I mean? So like I was like, okay, so everybody's going to be in it, right? This is and then we did the little piece out by the pasture with the one horse, but that was just me.
Yeah.
And then we did the one part in the barn, and that was just me too, but I just thought it was going to be like me against everybody. It was when I, like the way we were shooting it all, I thought it was going to be, okay, I'm the guy that wins the final, but I'm against everybody else, which is fine. So they actually had the premiere at Flamborough, and I didn't go because I was in the first race, but Jay and Jason Ryan and everybody went over to watch it, and my mother was there, and so everybody watched it. And then when they all came back, I said, like, I was actually pumped. I said, "How was it?" And
you're getting in a podcast. Come
right
jump
now.
in.
Nice, very good.
We got one of the big shots of Western Fair here.
Bob, how are you?
Hey, how are you, Scott?
Good to
Yeah.
see you, Scott. How are you, buddy? Good to see you. I just wanted to make sure that the table for two
we
was
got
good.
Oh, it's absolutely. It's perfect.
Candle, anything else, folks?
No, good to go. No, thank you very much.
ourselves.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we saw you from the bridge, and I'm like, what's the table for two?
Who's in there?
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good.
Take care, guys. Good to see you.
So then it came back and
So it came back. So I said to the guys, I said, "How was it?"
Yeah.
Right? I said, "How was it?" And they said, "They made a commercial about you." I said, "What?" And they said, "The whole commercial's about you." I was like, "Sounds like a pretty good commercial if you ask me." But anyway, so then I got to watch it, and the whole thing's about me. Yeah. So, but it was actually cool because then I got to go to movie theaters, and it was on Sportsnet, like during the they had the playoffs, and it was like in between, right? So
I saw it in the movie theater.
yeah,
for sure.
so I had a bunch of people, like a bunch of my friends that I go to high school with or throw golf and stuff, and every time I'd see them or they'd send me messages and be like, "Look at you, we seen you on TV." And I'm getting videos sent to me, like we came to the movies to see a movie, not look at you, you know what I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic. It was a lot of fun.
So here's my take on it. I thought the commercial was incredible. I thought Ontario Racing has done an incredible job with that series of commercials and marketing in general. The only issue I'm finding is other sports do that, right? They, you're watching something for the NHL or NFL, and they'll hype you up.
Yeah.
And they'll get you all excited for a game. And then you go to the Leafs game, and it's amazing.
Yep.
There's a little bit to me of, all right, you sold me. If I don't understand racing, I'm in. I want to go see this.
it. Yeah.
But then it's not the same thing.
No,
Because
exactly when you show up.
It might be like that for you trying to win a race.
Yep.
But for the fan out there, they don't get to see that's what
That's
it's
what I
like
get to
for
do.
you.
No, exactly.
So I'm just trying to rack my brain and say, how do we make that happen?
In my opinion, unfortunately, in harness racing now, when it comes to big events, I find now it's just that's like every event now is or every big race that's going to be for harness racing is an event now, like NA Cup or Metro Night or Camelot Classic or even Dream of Glory Night in Hanover. It seems like the only way we can get fans to, like big crowds to come to the racetrack is if there's a big race and they make it an event. You know what I mean? Like it's getting more and more like that, and then more and more of them are only in the summer too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no big events going on in the wintertime either.
Well,
which
you'll see it'll work, and the people will criticize it like the Queen's Plate's a perfect example of like that place will be packed.
yeah.
But a lot of the people there are there for the concert and are there for this atmosphere where they get to dress up and wear fancy hats.
See, that's why I think like the fancy hat thing I love. Like I think NA Cup and all that that should be one of their promos. Like I think even Hambo Day they have like the best hat contest, right? And they have 20 girls or whatever. But I think that's cool. Like I think they should do stuff like that or best dressed or whatever it happens to be. Like I'm not sure if London does it. Like London has the tent, which is fantastic. The infield, they're fantastic. But even Dream of Glory Night and at NA Cup Night, they have a band normally that comes and plays, right? Like while the races are going on, and I think that's huge too because maybe people are only coming to see the band, but at least if they come see the band, they can't not see the races as well.
Well, and it's great here too because the band is right
there,
like,
right on the track, basically, right? Just like it isn't at the other two spots. So like I said, but you cannot miss the racing, right? So even if you're maybe, and who knows, maybe it's only $2 to show, but hey, it's $2 to show that we didn't have before. You know what I mean? So it at least it might interest somebody. Maybe we'll come back next week, or maybe we'll come back to this next year, or whatever. You know what I mean? Or at least look for a reason maybe to come back to the track if they have a good experience at it anyway.
Yeah. See, like I find that sports in general, in order to pull new people, I need to have a reason to cheer for somebody, and so like I need to get to know an athlete, their story, what it was about them, and so that commercial was a great start.
Yeah.
But I noted before that when Louis Philippe Waugh first came to Mohawk, it's like I don't know what this guy's voice sounds like. And they have the best broadcast crew
around
anywhere. Like these guys do an incredible job. They got the biggest budget.
Well, I think paddock interviews and all that stuff should be done more too. You know what I mean? You know, a lot of guys maybe not so much after the race, but like, what's wrong with interviewing 5 drivers? Let's just say have 5 drives on a card. You know what I mean? Let's just go over your drives, man. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever it happens to be. You know, like Saturday nights at Georgian, I have a lot of fun because they get wicked crowds Saturday night, middle of the summer.
Still do now?
Georgian
Awesome.
Downs. Front of the grandstand.
It always used to be that
packed, right? Not what it used to be, because the bar used to be full and everything else, right? But Saturday night, warm night, middle of July, front of the grandstand, they're at least 3 deep, like three. So there's a bunch of people, right? And I had fun. I met probably about a dozen different guys throughout the whole summer that would be like yelling over at me saying like, go number 5 or whatever, right? And I tell them, I'd be like, I'd say to them like, I should be top 2, right? Well, as soon as I open my mouth and tell them top 2, these guys just go crazy. You know what I mean? Like they cannot believe I'm actually talking to them, right? So then hopefully I am first or second, because that makes things way easier.
Yeah, then you won't have a guy yelling at you.
Yeah, exactly, right? But I remember that I had this group of like 5 guys that were all from Newmarket area, and they were hollering at me one night, and I said to them, I was driving one of the 8-hole that had like not a very good chance. I said, don't worry about this one, but I said, but my next 2 should win. So they both just couldn't believe I give that info out. And then I come out for post parade the next 2 races, and they're like yelling at me, this one. I said, yes. Well, I won those 2 races.
Oh, nice.
And actually got them. The second one I come out, I stopped at the fence. I said, come on, come get your picture taken. So then they come out and got their picture taken with me. Well, then they just think I'm like the best guy since sliced bread, right? So I was like, that's cool. And then actually I went up for the last race, and they were barking at me saying, what about this one? And I said, you should be close, right? So then I actually cleared to the lead turn for home. So then as a joke, I kind of tried to find them in the grandstand and look at them, right? You'd honestly think I won the North American Cup. These guys were like on top of each other's shoulders, like losing their mind, you know what I mean? And they all maybe made like $80 on me a night, but to them, that was like, they had the best Saturday night ever.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be the money. It's just
exactly, just the interaction. You know what I mean? And then it was they come over to the side of Georgia, and I had a race off, so I went up and introduced myself to them and shook their hands and stuff. And I got them all on Instagram now, and you know what I mean. They said next summer we're going to come see you and bring their wives, but I think that's what you got to do. You know what I mean? I think to get people to come to the track, or even just to show that they're enjoying it somewhat, just to even be interaction with some drivers.
Any sport that you like, you can think of the athletes that you want to cheer for, and it's like without that, we've got 2 types. Right? We've got the horses, and we've got
drivers
guys,
too.
We've also got owners and trainers and lots of people to cheer for. But if you don't know them and you just only see their name in a program, it's hard to cheer for.
Hard to cheer for somebody. How many people I've told that I harness race horses for a living? Excuse me. They're all like, is that the one with like the carriage behind it? That's my favorite line ever, right? And I'm like, it's called a sulky, but we'll go with the carriage. It's fine, right? And then they're like, oh, so where do you race, right? And living in Guelph, the 2 places they know are Mohawk and Elora. Those are the 2 places they know. And they either say they've never been, or they've been before and went to the casino. Right. Those are the 2 things. So I've actually, like, nothing against Mohawk, and I do drive more in Elora than I do there. Last month's been really good, but we'll see if it continues. But I keep telling everybody to come to Elora because it's such a family friendly kind of racetrack. You know what I mean? Like you're right on top of them, just like Mohawk. Like you stand right at the fence, and I can almost high five you on the way by. And it's just you're right there. You know what I mean? You can't miss it. You know what I mean?
They have the great tent out front.
Oh, and the dining room's got the best deal in Ontario, if you ask me. I think it's $24.99 for their buffet, and you can't beat the food. Like I know my parents will come on Friday nights even to watch me race and just to have supper. You know what I mean? It's just and it's close. It's like 15, 20 minutes from Guelph. It's you can't beat it, really. You know?
I've always kind of wondered about that as far as dining rooms go. It's just great addition to, like, if you can serve a great dinner.
Yeah.
And,
Why not?
and people don't even care about the racing. It's something going on.
Well, that's going great here for Western Fair.
Yeah.
Like even last night, I know Mohawk canceled, but they raced. But the big thing about them, their track was obviously safe enough to race, but their dining room sold out, right? And what are they going to do? Turn? I don't even know how many it fits, but turn all them people away. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, Mohawk, their dining room does very well, and so does their outside. It's expensive to eat at Mohawk Racetrack. That's the problem I find with, like, I went there this year. I was fortunate enough to go for NA Cup, I believe, with my girlfriend, and it was just the two of us.
Yep.
And yes, we had 2 alcoholic drinks, and we both had supper and dessert. But we were there for the whole night.
The buffet or the kitchen?
The kitchen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because we weren't in the dining room side. We were on the other side of the escalator.
Yep.
And Ryan, I want to tell you, it was like $400 plus after tax.
Wow. You must not be a cheap eater. You get
I only had one. No, it wasn't even an app. It was just a main and dessert, and 2 drinks. Like that was my whole point of it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, I'm going to Mohawk Racetrack, and yeah, okay, it's NA Cup night. And I get all that, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's really only a maximum $200 meal. You know what I mean? Like I could go to a fine, like screw the keg. I could go to a fine dining place in Guelph that is like, local everything and known for it, and I still don't have to pay $400.
Yeah.
And probably have better food. No
Depending on what it is, like on a big night like that, like one of my favorite things to do is go to a big race at Gulfstream Park, and the dining room there will be like
insane.
Yeah, it'll be like $120 a person or something.
I've been there twice.
You're there for 6 hours. You
Yeah.
get the best view in the whole place. Walk out to the walking ring.
2 places. If you could, if you had to take a picture of how a grandstand should look, like if you're going to put a grandstand on a racetrack, how it should look, Keeneland and Gulfstream are my favorite 2.
I haven't been to Keeneland.
Yeah, no, I got to go to Keeneland last year with my girlfriend in Kentucky. I'd never been. It was opening day, so we got to do that. And then I got to go to Gulfstream. First time I think it was 4 years ago. I went with Bobby McClure, Jack Waples, Ryan Holiday, and Scott Ray. We just went to Florida to play golf for 4 days, and then we went there. And then last year I actually took my girlfriend. We were in Florida, so I took her to Gulfstream. But it's like a place, if I happen to be in South Florida, I have to make sure I stop by at least once, because it's just fantastic to see.
The one advantage I think the Thoroughbreds have over us that we need to figure out a solution to is every race is exciting. Thoroughbreds.
Thoroughbreds,
because you just don't know what's going to happen when they come out of the gate.
Yeah.
And we have some, like I was watching last night here, and there's some races that are incredibly exciting, and then there's other races that are just like a snooze fest.
Snooze fest,
and it's like, 2 seconds into the race, he wins.
And quality of horse, I think, makes a big difference in that. Like, and same for big nights, like NA Cup night. There's I want to watch every race.
Yeah.
Whether because it's like the first race is the nominators at 25,000, so it's good horses, and then you got a preferred probably, and then you got 7 or 8 finals of every which one, right? And they're just good horses, and good horses are fun to watch.
Yeah.
In harness racing,
For
I
me,
find.
quality. If you have a quality horse, a quality group of horses, it doesn't matter if the race is competitive. Like watching some beach somewhere win the Ontario
Final,
Stakes final by half of the stretch.
field. Yeah.
It was great to watch.
Just even to watch him, right?
But watching a 6 claimer win by 20 lengths.
Yeah,
is
no, not the same. No,
But
for sure.
I find that if you get a 6 claimer where they're
all across the board.
competitive,
Yep, that's good
now
too.
I got a great race.
No, 100%.
And I
100%.
don't care if they're good horses.
Competitive fields are, and they're getting, unfortunately, harder and harder to do because of limited amount of horses in Ontario, right? And how much money they go for in the States and the dollar, and we don't really need to get into that. But it's true, though. But I think that's also a race-off's job, to the best they can, of course.
Yeah.
But competitive fields, and I think it's good for the bet, too. Like, there's nothing better than looking over at the board and seeing, like, a 2-1 favorite, and then seeing, like, 4 horses that are from, like, 4-1 to 8-1.
Yep.
You know what I mean? All single digits. Like that makes it fantastic,
We might be stuck a little bit in that, and I don't know if the horsemen would go for it, if that's what the race secretaries are thinking, but, the traditional condition sheet might be holding us back from building competitive races. And,
well, I'll bring that up now. That's why I said to you about having me on after Ronnie Burke. I don't know how good that is for your views, but but like he said about the Trackmaster rating, right?
Yeah.
It does suck because your horse can show 50 and not getting any money, and he doesn't get to drop down, right? Which that would suck. But
so I'll throw you my idea. You're gonna laugh me out of here, but if I had a track and I had, I'm offering up 10 races, and I got my purses set. I'm saying you enter your horse, and I'm putting them in a race, just like the UFC. It's like we're gonna card you in. So let me get together 100 horses and let me
put them where I feel like
put
they
some
should be.
good racing together.
See, that's
gonna be
that's tough when it comes to claimers, right? Because you know, a guy like you, like let's say a guy's putting one in for 10,
like a tag.
and you look at his paper and you know he's not a 10. He's probably only a 6, but he doesn't want him in for 6. That makes it tough. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But condition horse wise, you know, like I really, you know, and I understand they have to fill classes, right? But there's nothing worse that I hate, like, you know, nominators 6,000 last 5, also eligible. Nominators of 15,000 last 10, also eligible. Nominators of 100 some odd thousand this year. Yeah. Like I understand you're making the 10 horse field, but there's probably 3 of them in there that are better than the other 7.
It's a lot of times you can see it right away when you look at a program and you say, okay,
who'd they open this for? Yeah.
For?
No,
and
exactly. That's the horse to beat. Yeah, no, for sure. And it's really good when you're driving that horse. Yeah. It's as a driver, you're like, perfect, you know what I mean? But it... I
just feel like we could be a little more creative because you have claiming races where there's a staggered amount and the higher ones draw outside.
Draw outside,
So there's no reason that at Western Fair a 10 claimer couldn't be starting from the 7 hole and 6 claimers everywhere else.
Like, see, like I've always thought this too, like preferred 2 horses, like at Flamborough and here, when you win, you automatically get handicapped the outside. That's the rule. And then if you win twice, normally you have to leave. That's basically what Ian makes you do, right? So if you win and then you're 3rd the next week, because it is hard to win from the outside, and then you get your fair draw next week and see how you do, right? But I've also thought, especially like with a mare I drive, Absolute Sealster, and Alfie Carroll gets to drive Willie or won't he? They can leave the car faster than most pacers. Yeah. Like it's insane for trotters. Like they can snap the switch, and that's what makes them so competitive in their preferred class, because they can make front like now, you know what I mean? And then you can just control the race, right? But like I've always thought, like if I win out of the 6 hole, 6 in it, let's just say, because I'm handicapped the outside, and I win out of the 6 hole with Absolute, that's fine. Well, the next week when you put me in, just assign me the trailer.
Yeah. Make it.
I can't make front.
Makes it a little tougher. Yeah.
I cannot make front.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you know what I mean. So if you sign me the trailer, even if it's the inside, you know what I mean. I'm still not on the car.
There's a rule question. Would you be legally allowed to take the 6 hole? Say you were assigned the trailer.
Yeah.
But because you're allowed to follow the 2, the 3, the whatever. Right?
Yeah, you're allowed.
Would you be allowed to go all the way out and around?
Yeah, like if I was to follow the 6 and the 6 was to make front and I was to keep trucking with them.
Well, like right now the 10, they moved the 10 at Mohawk to the trailer.
Yeah.
Could the trailer, theoretically, if you wanted to, get up on the gate in the 10 spot?
If you not the 10 spot, because it's like they basically made the track only 9 wide now.
Oh, okay.
But I could follow the 9 if I wanted to.
And then as soon as he ducks.
Yeah, go wherever.
I mean, I doubt you
see it. No, like actually, I think it was 2 nights ago. I think I had the 10 hole. I followed the 4 out.
Yeah.
Right, just because the 1 showed making breaks, 2, 3 showed nothing. So and the 4 showed somewhat getting out of there. So I followed the 4.
Yeah.
But they have the rule here with the 9 horse fields, and same as Mohawk with the 10 and the 11. Because we've talked about it with the judges. Yeah. As long as if the starter feels it's an unfair start, he's allowed to call a recall.
Okay.
But you try not to do it, but like, and again, maybe talk to the driver about it. Like if the guy driving the one beside you, if you know him or whatever. But if like I got the 9 hole, or sorry, the 8 hole here, so 8-9 trail, and the 1 horse shows nothing but breaks. Yeah. Right. So I like the rule is if I get there first, the 1 beside me has to go on the outside of me, no matter what. So like if I come up first and get behind the 2, then he has to follow the 3.
That's a strange rule.
Yeah, same as at Mohawk. Like if I was to get up behind the 2, you'd have to follow the 3, right? But then again, if I don't get there first and he's behind the 2, well then you're on your own.
So if the 2's the winner, you guys are fighting for
it, right? But then again, like call it courtesy. But he also couldn't. He might not care. He might just be like because he doesn't have to care. The other driver, like if you say, hey man, I'm kind of want to follow the 2 here because this rail show's making breaks, right? And it also might save a recall too. Like this guy makes a break in front of me, then we got a recall, then we got to do this all over again. You know what I mean? We just get this out of the way now. You know what I mean, right? But it
that's kind of funny that it's optional because like if you were in the 8 hole,
because like even if I started behind the 5, let's just say I start behind the 5, he's got to start 6.
Yeah.
Like he has to.
Once you line up.
Once I line up, like if I pick behind the 5 horse and I have the trailer, he has to start 6. Right. So like that's. But 90%, I'll even go higher than that. 95%.
Though they'd probably
recall right away.
And then
then me and him would have to either figure it out, like what are we doing here? Because I'm not following whatever one. You know what I mean? But like I said, that not that often you haven't.
I haven't seen that really being.
Well, that's what I said. I said 90%, but I'll even go higher than that. Like 98% of the time, it's normally just follow 1, 2.
Well, it's still pretty rare to see 2 trailers. Like Mohawk, sometimes they'll have a.
They got them in the 1 3/8 races now.
Okay.
They'll have the double trailer, right? Yeah. That's what they're trying to do anyway. Get 10, 11, right?
Yeah.
But I've had some luck out of the 10 hole trail in here over the last little bit, so I actually like it because it's. it's kind of, if you have the 9 hole and you leave, it's kind of the same as when you had the 10 before. Like, it's really hard to just kind of like float and try and land 5th or 6th when you had the 10 hole before, because you're way out there.
Yeah.
If you're leaving, you're basically all in. You know what I mean? So you got to blast, right? But what's really tough about having the 8 or 9 now, where before if you had 10 hole and you wanted to float out of the 8 or 9, you could maybe get away 5th or 6th. Now, if you go to leave out of the 8 or 9, your 5th and 6th spot that you would land is getting filled by the 10 hole now.
Yep.
Right, so that's where it makes it tough, you know what I mean? But it also, when you have the 10 hole, you can position yourself in the race now, which is nice.
Is the 10 hard to push out from, like, as far as if the 1 leaves? Because I know that the 1 doesn't bat a great percentage, because when you leave from the rail, it takes a lot out of these horses.
Rail would be the toughest place at Mohawk, I find, to position yourself. Because to get away, especially with a young horse, I find, because 2 steps too quick off the rail, you position yourself to be first up. 2 steps too slow off the rail, you position yourself to be 3rd or 4th over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's really tough.
I see a lot of people get away 3rd and 4th, and it's
off
like,
the rail.
You're not quarter pole moving from the rail.
No,
because
exactly.
It took you a lot
well,
to get
you just
there.
had to push through as it was. You know what I mean? That's the, like, again, 3, 4, 5 at Mohawk are my favorite spots, because if you leave at all, like, you just leave and you're
if I'm betting
there.
a horse on the rail, I'm hoping he gets away 5th or 6th. So
Exactly. Second over trip. Yeah,
like
but
that.
In my opinion, it's probably one of the toughest places to get a horse away off the rail, for sure.
Strategically, it's got to be tough at that track, because the one thing when you're watching betting is if you get away 10th, it's like you're 13 lengths off the lead, and it's like you're
being nice.
It's like you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's normally like 22, right? Because the boys like to
They're
gap
strung
too.
out.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody's down at the rail too, but
by the quarter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's another thing I find, like, and I'm not calling myself different, you know what I mean? Like, I'm the guy, but like, if a guy gets parked or a guy gets shut out of a hole, unfortunately, as drivers, we think we're doing it like to the driver.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're parking me or you're shutting me out of a hole. Like, don't get me wrong, that might be true the odd time, but most of the time it's like, I'm not really parking you, man. I just don't want to let your horse in or like let you go. You know what I mean? It's nothing personal. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I don't blame the drivers at all for a lot of this stuff, as far as whether it's given holes or, we were talking about letting a guy up the rail. It's like the drivers will drive to the best of their ability based on the rules set out for them. And unfortunately, a lot of these rules are antiquated, and a lot of them are vague. And so we have rules like failure to set pace comparable to the horse. Like, that rule has never been enforced unless somebody was out to get somebody or something.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
the whole, Wally Hennessy's batting 500 down at Pompano because he's strategically destroying these guys. He gets on the lead, he steals a minute, middle half, and he sprints home.
Like,
I just can't.
I think, like, where it's different for me. Like, if a maiden goes, Mohawk will even call it. If a maiden goes 30 and change second quarter in the wintertime, 31 seconds.
Yeah.
And as long as they weren't like jammed up completely.
Yeah.
Okay. But then you get the preferred pace maybe going 30 seconds.
Yep.
Okay. Like, maybe that I'd have a high up, because like, I know they're not pacing 49 in the middle of December, but they're probably still pacing 51.
It's a weird rule, though, because if you think
exactly,
any
that's
other
what I mean.
race,
It's a very weird rule. Because you have to.
If I'm running a marathon, and I'm the best in there, and I'm looking back and nobody's with me, I'm jogging, because why would I go faster
if I don't have to?
Unless I'm trying to set a world
100%.
record or something.
100%.
It's strategically better
to do that.
Save some energy.
Well, the other night I was fortunate enough to, when I was on front the other night at Mohawk, and I had one parked on the outside of me, and I went 29-1 third quarter and got a middle half in 58, and then I sprinted 27-2 home, and I know they're not going to catch me. Like, if my guy comes, I'm expecting him to come 27, and he did, but I know they're not going to catch me off that, right? But like, why would I go 28 and a bit on the turn, especially if I have this guy parked?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's just
Well, I feel
strategy
like
as a driver.
That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to win races.
No, exactly. So, the one problem, and I'm not going to get into it long, one problem I have with harness racing, why are we taking so long for races to go?
Yeah.
Like, 10 races and we're here 4.5 hours? Why?
Well, I can tell you why.
Why?
Tell you the answer, because nobody bets until they put a 0 up on the board, and then the money just keeps coming in.
So here's my thing, though. I totally, and you're not the only person that said that to me, right? Totally agree.
Yep.
You put 0 minutes on the board, and the car pulls out, and keep that, they'll get their bet in.
Yep.
So if they're betting the race, when they know, because see now, when 0 minutes pops up on the board, the guys are like, okay, we get 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're you know what I mean? We get 7 minutes. If you pop 0 minutes on the board and the car pulls out and you're going behind the gate, they'll make sure when it's 4 minutes are on the board.
Yeah.
Okay, we better go bet this race because we got 4 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't even start on time. Like, post time Flamborough
it's
6:35.
The first race is the pick 5 at that.
Yeah, but you're not even there. Like, Flamborough, everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, post time 6:35 for Flammy.
Yeah.
I'll post braid in the first race. I look over at the board. It's 6:37.
It's a funny thing because everybody in the industry wants to stop this. I haven't heard from one person who likes post-time drag, whether it's a track, a driver,
And you're
anything.
15 seconds late for Lasix, and they got to scratch you.
Yeah.
And then they tell me, oh, it's just guidelines. They're just guidelines. So if they're just that's fine. If they're just guidelines, so why are they direct when it comes to Lasix?
Yeah.
If they're just guidelines and you guys are an hour and a half behind, 50 minutes behind, even go there. Okay, well, I give my horse Lasix 4 hours ago to race, plus now I'm 50 minutes, so now it's 5 hours.
Yeah.
Or 5 and a bit. Is my Lasix actually working like it's supposed to?
Yeah. No, and there's definitely
You know what I
some,
mean? Like, it's that's my thing. Like, it's just, and you cannot tell me you can't run 10 races in 3 hours, and then give yourself, it's 3.5, but give yourself the extra half an hour for recalls, inquiry, flat tire, whatever it happens to be, right?
Yep.
You can't tell. Like, NFL, MLB, every other sport is trying to shorten it. We're trying to we want the fans to be here, have fun, and go home.
Yep.
Who is at a racetrack, or in my opinion, watching it on TV, at 20 after 11 on a Tuesday night?
Yeah. It's hard.
Like, who's watching this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially now when when people complain about not coming to the track because you can do it on your phone or on your iPad or on your computer, and you can just walk to your kitchen and come back and still catch the race.
Yep.
Okay, well, especially if people aren't coming to the racetrack and can do it on their phone.
Yep.
So for sure, why aren't we trying to speed this up?
Well,
You know?
the thing, and I'm guilty of it too, because I'll be betting a track, and then I'll be on HPI and I see the list of like 20 tracks,
Yeah.
and whatever's a 0, I might go and put a bet on that track. And so the problem is that it works. And if the thing is to stop it, if one person stops, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's like it's got to be across the board, and so it's got to take
'Cause I was
tracks coming together.
I was two things that I've seen over the last month. I was at Flamborough there 2 weeks ago. Jason Bartlett won a race at Yonkers. He was pulled up and jogging back to the winner's circle, and Marnie said 1 minute.
Yep.
So I walked out of the driver's room. He was jogging back. So I walked out, went to the winner's circle, drove my horse, won, went to the winner's circle, came back, and walked directly back into the driver's room.
Yep.
And they had the prices up for the following race. And we had 11 minutes on the board.
Yeah.
What's going on there? And not only that, like I said, we post sprayed at 6:37. By the time we say go, it's like 6:41.
Yep.
So we're like, okay, 7-8 minutes already behind. But they post time flame was supposed to be 6:30. I was in the 10th the other night at Mohawk. I got changed, and Flamborough had 7 minutes to the 11th race. They started 6:30, 6:45 by the time they say go. We started 7:10, 7:17 by the time we say go.
Yeah.
So come on, guys, we're like 45 minutes behind you, and we're done, and you still get 7 minutes to your last race.
Well, you're preaching to the choir here. I mean,
Yeah.
I've put out some stuff that got me in some hot water about. I think it's just outright dishonest, and that in a betting game, you need your customers to trust you.
Yeah.
And when you
But like
say-
I said, when they see 0 minutes now, they know they get 7 or 8 minutes before they have to do
Well, and
it.
it bothers me as a customer when I'm at the track. The first place I look is on the board for the drivers because that's how long it is to post. So it'll say 0, but it'll say 6 for the drivers.
Six.
It's like, okay, I know there's 6
I've done that,
minutes.
like Mohawk, you go at the track and it'll be 0, your post break, and then you look over because they say go by the clock,
Yeah.
and it'll see 7 minutes.
Yep.
You know, so I'm like,
But at
okay.
least I've now found a way where it's like I know the real post.
No,
time
yeah,
is.
exactly.
'Cause
Yeah,
I
you
can
hook
look where the
yourself up
drivers
that
look.
way. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I was managing a track, I would have to say that I'm probably never going to show, right now, I would never show a time other than 0. As soon as the next race is done,
Just
I'd
put
show
0.
0.
So 0, yeah.
Because now I'm getting all the online bets. There's no
Right away.
point in never showing 3, 2, 1.
1, yeah, I know.
0.
Yeah.
Because that's going to
The only time I think that would be to show 3, 2, 1, 0 is if you're going to go behind the gate at 0.
Yeah.
That would be the only way to do it. So, and that's cool. Throw 12 minutes up on the board.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. Like when we come in and you throw 12 minutes up on the board. But that's fine. But I expect to be going behind the gate in 12 minutes,
Yep.
not 20. You know what I mean?
We're
That's
digging ourselves a hole here because it's quickly accelerating too, and I mean you've got tracks that it hit worse points. They tried to correct it, but I mean when I did a tally, I averaged it out for a week, and some tracks were hitting 9-10 minutes, and it's like
over.
it's getting to be where like
You know,
okay, how far can we go?
That's the number. Oh, we have to eat the bet. We have to eat the bet.
Yeah.
I'd even do like a try. Let's do like a 10-day, 2-week trial. Let's just see. Okay, actually go at 0. Throw your 11 minutes up. Let's go at 0. let's see how much difference there actually is.
I think whoever tries it's going to get crushed.
Well, like they bet $1.2 million, right, on an average night at Mohawk.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm telling you right now, they're not going to bet 800,000.
Yeah.
Like it's not. I'm telling you, right? They might not. They might only bet $1 million.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They are just over $1 million, right? But I don't think they're getting it. They're
It
going
would have to be well communicated and clear.
Oh, and let everybody know. Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I like the they do it here. They do it at Mohawk.
They get the camera for the car and the seconds.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because
That's
that
cool.
helps. Because
Yeah.
at least at Mohawk, if it's like if they posted 0 and I saw the 60-second timer, I'm not going to be caught off guard. 'Cause
No,
it's like,
exactly.
now
You
I
know
got
you
time.
have to do it. Yeah.
Get my
No,
bet in.
exactly. Right.
Yeah.
But it and I like it. They do it here too. Like they have Brad pull over and they get the Brad on the car the whole time.
Yep.
And same with they've added the starting car cams. So you can see us going behind the gate.
Yep.
All that stuff has to be.
It's one of the major. It's not enough on its own, but one of the things that when I try to introduce friends to the sport and they see 0 MTR and ask what it is, it's like, okay, that's minutes till the race, minutes to post, and then they're like, well, why isn't it racing?
What do you do?
And I'd have to explain to them, well, they'd start 6 minutes or so after.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that turns
it's
them
different
off.
like on a big night, like on Camlet Classic night or on NA Cup night where, you know, there's stuff to do. That's why they have 20 minutes in between races. But if you're just a guy like, let's say tonight, watches the first race, by the time, let's say you won some tickets, right? So you go cash your tickets, you come back out, you look at the next race, handicap your next race, you look up, they're expecting to see 1 or 2 minutes and us be on the racetrack.
Yep.
Instead, no, we got like 8 more plus the drag. You know what I mean? So there's just nothing to do.
Yeah.
I find people just get bored. That's why they don't.
I mean, we're better than the Thoroughbreds. They can be.
Oh,
they
they're
can be half
they're,
an hour.
they're
longer,
but they don't race as long as us either.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're just
A lot of times they'll have an eight race or something.
8 race,
shorter
and
than that.
even their meets are not as long. You know what I mean? So that, but I just think that I just like to see if they tried it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And if it's major not working, well then hey man, you gotta go back to what works. You know, which is fine. You know what I mean, right?
I think it's just one of the things that we got to make it fun to want to come out to the track. And that's one of the things that would help.
Like Sunday flams drive me nuts because like 6 o'clock all summer in Georgian Downs, we go to Flamborough. Now we're gonna go 6:55, so that's like 7:10 by the time we say go.
Yep.
Okay, and I'm just a driver. But if I drive in the last race, get changed, get in my car, I look at the clock, it's like 20 after 11, 11:15. I didn't have to bath it, ship it home.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And we're talking Sunday night too.
Yeah.
Like people got to go to work on Monday morning too, right? So like by the time you're home with your horse and stuff, it's like 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's like who wants to be doing that on a Sunday? You know what I mean? And it's cold. You know what I mean? It's not like it's the middle of summer either. You know what I mean? And it's freezing. You know, so
I don't know how honestly the grooms who do that. I did it for like a couple months.
They deserve
a few
everything.
times. It's like
I'm telling
getting
you.
home at 2 in the morning and expecting to be back in the barn by 6.
Yeah, like you know,
It's tough
jocks
life.
get paid 10%, right? Trainers get paid 10%, and like I don't want to say drivers deserve less than 5 because then I'm taking money away from myself. So I'll go with it. But trainers should be making 10, in my opinion, right? And in that case, if trainers are making 10, and you had I'm talking full time groom, you could be giving them a percentage too, because like. These horses don't race if it's not for them. I'm telling you, like
certain trainers will give a win bonus and
which I believe they should. You know what I mean? Like they really should. Like especially if you got a groom that like takes care of a filly or a colt, like strictly takes care of their set of horses, and like whether their feet are bad or they need their stifles rough or whatever it happens to be, like it's insane how much grooms don't get enough credit because
and how important it is too. Because they're the front line.
They are like the trainers make sure the main things are covered, right?
Yeah.
But the actual like every day making sure that horse is happy and making sure it's got everything. Like I get them for 2 minutes.
Yep.
Right. That's why drivers get the most credit because if I mess up. Absolutely, you're getting yelled at. I've had this thing for 7 days. You know,
they put all the work in.
And you're gonna drive it like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Are you kidding? You know what I mean? So like, we're totally on board with that. But it, like
Do
I
you
said,
ever get frustrated? Like one of the things is looking at it from the horseman's side, as far as a groom or a trainer, I would find it to be very offensive to me if a driver gets off the bike and disrespects my horse in any way.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care if you finished last. It's like the amount of money we spend on this thing, the amount of time and care that goes into it. And
you wouldn't believe how much people
frustrated
hate it too, but right? You
So-
wouldn't believe how much people like. I try and do my best of being as respectful as I possibly can. Put it this way, this is how I see it. If the horse race is bad, well, they just watch the race.
Yeah.
So they know it raced bad too. So they really don't need you telling them that the race bad, and they don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's fine. I just appreciate the work. Maybe it wasn't his night tonight. I'll be here next week.
Is that tough to put on that that smile when sometimes?
Not really,
like,
because like they could be using anybody else. That's
Yeah.
how I see it. I'm very fortunate to
there's
be able
got to
to
be times though where you were listed on 3.
Three. Oh, and you
picked
take the
that
wrong one. Oh, there's been tons of times too. And you know what? There's times too, like where I have a relationship with the trainer, with my clientele, that I drive all their horses. So
Yeah.
then, if I drive a horse of theirs that races a certain way 28 times a year, and then and then a couple times it doesn't race good, when I come off, I'll be like, it's not very good, right? But they already know. But they can be like, yeah, something's got to be up, right?
Yeah.
But they know I'm disappointed. But so are they, because it races this way all the time, and then all of a sudden it
Yeah.
races like this. There's got to be something going on.
I guess
you know what mean?
I want as an owner for the driver to share in the feeling of frustration, but not to like put it on
the horse, right?
on the team.
No, it's behind
the
it.
horse,
Yeah,
and, like,
yeah.
To be like, oh, what are you guys doing putting me on this thing? Like, you know.
Yeah, no,
I want them to be frustrated.
Yeah.
And to be like, okay, what's wrong?
Well, there's got to be
But-
something up, right?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like it's.
So I don't want them to sugarcoat it.
No, but like clearly, if there's a problem, I'm not the only one probably thinking that there's a problem. You guys
Yeah.
are well aware of this too, right? Like this, if I'm thinking there's a problem, you guys must think there is too. There's not too often I would say I come off and think it raced like crap or didn't race very good, and they come off and they're like, he's good, eh? And I was like, sure, you know what I mean, right? Like
Yeah.
normally we're on the same page, you know what I mean? But like again, like I said, they could be using anybody else. In Ontario, there is more drivers than there is horses, right? Like, honestly, if you look at a program, like I even think for tonight, there's like 10 races, and let's just say there's 8 in every race, okay?
Yeah.
Well, there's probably like 35 drivers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Particularly
Like,
here, I think you get
yeah,
a lot
like
deep field.
and with only 2 tracks,
Yeah.
with only Flamborough and London going, right, in the wintertime, right? Like it's, you look, there's 8 on gate, and there's 11 of us sitting upstairs.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And this guy might only have 2, this guy might only have 4, I myself only have 3 tonight, you know what I mean? But you have to show up to work, because the minute you don't show up to work, there's 9 guys that'll take your spot if you don't want it.
Yep.
You know what I mean, right? That's why, like right now at Mohawk, I've been like extremely fortunate and having a little luck too. But it, Trevor and Dougie being gone is really, really helped. But
How do you assess that switch? Because that's always like, if say you're getting steady work at London, and then there's a night where it's like, you could pick up 2 at Mohawk,
Yeah.
or 10 in London. It's like, what do you do?
yeah, for me, wherever you feel
Yeah.
you can make the most money is for me
On that night.
on that night. You know what I mean? Like, and for me, like I'd rather drive 3 good ones than 10 okay ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for Mohawk, for me, is not that they don't see you in London,
Yep.
but they see you at Mohawk.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's not that they don't see you winning in London or winning at Flam, right? But if you win at Mohawk or even just drive well and finish 2nd or 3rd at Mohawk,
Yeah.
a lot more people notice that than they would, let's say, London or Flam. But it, actually, I kind of done Flamborough done Mohawk a little bit on Thursdays because Flamborough had been a little quiet,
Yeah.
and I had a couple for my dad here and there, right? So I was going to kind of try and keep coming, and then my dad actually had one that was going to race on Friday and at Mohawk, so I was kind of doing Thursday, Friday, and then so I said okay, and then Bobby McClure got talking to me about it, and he just said, why don't you come here? Like, especially with Dougie and Trevor being gone, and
Yeah.
he said, like, a bunch of guys that use you at the B tracks are probably going to, they might use you here, and he said, you're not getting, like, I wasn't driving 10 a night in London. I was pumped if I had between, like, 3 and 6 between here and Flam.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that, because, again, very, very fortunate, but I do drive a lot more in the summer, but there's more tracks to race and more horses, right? And
Yep.
me being a 2 and 3-year-old guy, there's a little more opportunity then, too.
So I always
right?
felt like the winter was the prime opportunity. It's changed a little bit at Mohawk because there's been so many young drivers that have recently just, claimed their spot there.
Yeah.
So, but it used to be that a few guys would disappear for a month or 2 in the winter,
yeah.
and that would be somebody's shot.
Somebody shot. Yeah,
And-
that's exactly kind of what I was going with. Like, I didn't imagine I'd be, like, I got 6 again on Thursday, and if I have 2 or 3 of Mohawk, I'm like pumped, you know what I mean? And one of them being dads, you know what I mean? Like, that's great to be able to pick up other work and being able to get drives for other people. Like, it really is a dream come true for me. But
Well, I mean, when I was talking to Ron Burke, that I asked him about how he sees new drivers and how he notices them. He said typically you'll see them driving a horse for somebody else, and he likes to see how they sit in the bike and
yeah.
learn what they do. So,
Yep.
like you said, that's your that's your stage.
That's your stage. And opportunities, like I said before, is everything, you know. Like how it really clicked on for me is I went to Mohawk and I got lucky. I won like 7 or 8 races. Like the first week, we'll call it, I was there.
Yeah.
That's the most races I've ever won at Mohawk in a week of my life.
Yeah.
Let alone like, you know, I think I had 8 wins all year going into that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then to win that many that week, it was. Everybody was talking about me, you know what I mean? It didn't matter if I was at Mohawk or, you know, I came here, like, I still did London on Tuesday, Wednesday Flamborough, Saturday, Sunday Flamborough. And everybody's like, well, what are you still doing here? And I'm like, I still got to eat. Like, this is just a phase, I'm telling you. Like, it's not going to last, you know what I mean? Like, I still got to make sure when this ends, I still got to be able to get some drives here, you know what I mean? Like, I got to be able to do something, but
Is that the first race?
That's the first race, so we're good. I'm not into the 5th, so we got time. Don't worry.
All right, what time do you got to be in there?
6:30. What time is it now?
Second or third?
Yeah, second or third. Yeah, we're all right. We got time. They don't start the show without me. We'll be all right.
Nice.
But it, yeah, no, like it, and I just tried to keep it rolling. Like I've got to drive down there which was for like since I was 19, 18. Like I've always got an opportunity to drive, mainly for Dad, but I got to drive down there, right? And I grew up there.
Yeah.
You know, my first horse was over Mohawk. You know what I mean? Like it. You know, so that's kind of been nice. Dad was always.
That's cool. Your first drive was at Mohawk?
No, my first ever horse I jogged.
Oh,
like by
okay,
myself.
jogged,
Yeah,
okay,
it was
yeah.
at Mohawk. My first ever drive was at Flamborough.
Yeah.
That's what I said about Georgian. Georgian's been great. It was my first ever win.
Yeah.
And then I won a gold there this year. So that was
Nice.
Georgian's been fantastic to me. But yeah, no, like being at Mohawk, you know, Dad was one of the main trainers there my whole life as a kid. You know what I mean? He had an 18, 19 horse barn right at the back stretch, right? So I kind of grew up there. So. Like we were talking about driving against those drivers, like they've known me since I was 5 years old, you know what I mean? And they still call me kid today, you know what I mean? But yeah, like it's, if I could ever, like everybody said, would you stay down there full time? And I was like, I guess, but like I don't need to be, like leading the place would be, I can't even imagine, you know what I mean? Like I think it would be impossible, but like just even to be down there to be one of the top 12 dudes, like just to even sit 6th, 7th, drive 4 or 5 nights a week and be able to make a living at it, like a really, really good living at it. And because that's like our highest purse between Flamborough and London is 11.5.
Yep.
And 8 claimer goes for 8. But think about that too.
Yeah.
Name a claimer that goes for what they're worth.
Yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean?
Other than the thoroughbred world,
Yeah,
that's
right.
unheard
And
of.
then other than the 8 claimer, the lowest class is numbers 3,000 and it goes for 11 grand.
Yeah. We were talking about competitive races. They just finished
It's 5 across there. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
That's tight.
that's exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about watching that and watching drivers come in is you just never know if this is going to be, because you're going to have a few. It's like when you watch a baseball player get called up to majors.
Yep.
It's like he's probably going to get a few games the first time, and then he might, you know, it's like when is going to be the time they
break in,
actually bring him up?
I find if you get a whether trotter, pacer, 2 or 3 year old that's maybe not like the best in its division, but definitely like top 3 in its division, and you get to keep that drive.
Yeah.
As a young driver, anyway, I find that what's puts you on the map almost. Like especially if you're like there, kind of already driving, and then you happen to pick up the one good one that gets you in the winner's circle, maybe in a gold, or get you second, like in a good times or something like that, or you know what I mean.
You definitely
like,
have to have your name on the sheet. So if it's like
it's key.
Your name's down there,
at least
okay, who can I use?
People have to know where you are. That's the thing. If you get bouncing around here and there, like, oh, he was here this Monday, but he's not here next Monday.
Yeah.
You're not only not going to get drives where you're at Mohawk, you're not going to get any drives here either, because you weren't here last Monday, but you are this Monday. You know what I mean? So wherever you happen to be, just only come out on 1, maybe 2.
Well, that's why I was asking about the transition, because it's so important to be, like, if you're trying to develop at a track, to be there consistently.
Yeah.
So when you get into that middle zone, it's such a hard choice, because if I pass this night here, I might.
Well,
not
I
pick
even
up the
see it
drives.
now. Like I think it was last Thursday at Mohawk. I think I had 5 drives, and I had a good night. I think I win 1. I had like a second and a third. Like for Mohawk, fantastic.
Yeah.
But I watched 3 of my drives win at Flamborough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? And I'm not complaining because I get to drive at Mohawk, right? But it's, you do get to see that, and that I don't want to say it bothers me, but you just get thinking to yourself, like, okay, well, if this doesn't work, hopefully if I ever do go back to Flamborough, I get those 3 back anyway. You know what I mean? But
what type of attitude are you? Like, do you come in there confident that you can drive with anybody right off the bat? Like when you're, you got John Campbell beside you. It's like, is that you feel like I'm as good of a driver? I'm a better driver than he is?
Well,
Like,
I don't know about a better driver than John Campbell. That's
Yeah.
your statement to me right there. But it, again, I think it's just got to do with horsepower. It really does. Like, don't get me wrong. There's guys that, like, okay, you're not as good as him. It's just how it is, right? But for myself, like, I find, maybe there's guys that can maybe get them to go a little bit more than me, but then maybe I can keep one trotting maybe that another guy couldn't. You know what I mean? Something like that. But I find if you look downtown or like wherever or at a main racetrack, you take the top 8 dudes.
yeah.
They can pretty well do the same thing as the next guy. You know what I mean? Like, especially if you look at the Grand Circuit guys, like you got Yannick, Timmy, Dexter Dunn, David Miller. If you can't get one, just use the next guy. You know what I mean? Like they're all just as good, and it doesn't matter. Look what you're driving too, right? Like,
They all know how to win races.
oh, exactly.
They might have their own way.
They might have their own way of doing it, exactly. But they all know how to win. You know what I mean? Like it's like a buddy of mine, Chris Page. I seen Ronnie talking about him there. Like he said, was one of his best baby guys. But Ronnie kind of brought him onto the Grand Circuit scene this year, and he didn't look out of place at all. You know what I mean? Like but then again, it's all really what you're driving. Like as a joke, I tell everybody, if you were to put me on 300 horses that somebody like a top guy like Dexter got to drive. Let's say out of the 300, he won half of them. Okay, well, I might not win half, but I'd probably win 100. You know what I mean? Just because they're probably going to win anyway. It doesn't really matter who's driving them. You know what I mean, right? But don't kid yourself. Like there's guys that have every driver's different. Every driver has different tactics, and there's guys that maybe can get one to go a little more than another guy. But
from my observation, I've noticed a few times. I won't name any names because it's a negative thing, but I'll see some great drivers who their first couple times on the big stage on a Grand Circuit night or something just get embarrassed.
Yeah.
And it's like, those veterans just showed you that
you're
this
not
isn't
quite
like
ready
every
yet.
other race.
Yeah, no, you're not quite ready. People ask if I get nervous. I'm not necessarily nervous. I maybe get like big races. Not that I've been in a whole bunch of them, but I've like even a $24,000 City of London. It still gets the butterflies and the hair stand up on your neck like when you go to post spray, especially if you got a shot too, right? Because it's a big night and you get all the emotions that way. But as soon as that starter blows the horn, it just instantly goes away. And unfortunately, I don't think everybody has that. Right, but my key is it doesn't matter how many zeros they add on. Don't drive any different. Just drive like you always drive, or drive to the best of your ability too, right? But you just can't panic. You know what I mean? I always tell everybody the more zeros they add, the better I drive. That's the way you got to do it.
There's a certain amount. I think you just have to have that confidence come across.
No, for sure,
but,
for sure.
Whether or not you fully have to believe it or not is a different story.
No, exactly.
But you got to at least be able to
at least convince yourself. I was going to say convince
Yeah.
yourself anyway. Yeah.
Because if you feel like guys are better than you on the track, that's an advantage. They're in your head, right?
Well, the first time I ever got to drive against, it was pretty cool. I was in the Simcoe Stakes for my dad. I think I was 21.
Yeah.
I had the rail. I was 80-1. He had won numbers of 3 and like 51, and then the owner wanted him in the Simcoe. And it was a 12-horse field going for like $280,000. So it was the biggest race I'd ever been in.
Yeah.
And I still think it is the biggest one I've
That's
ever
a lot
been
of
in.
money.
And but I had the rail, and I still remember it was Scotty Zerone was driving Michael's Power. Sylvain was driving like Panther Hanover. Yannick was driving the Rock and Roll Dance. Right. Timmy was in there. Andy Miller. John Campbell was driving like one for McIntosh, but they were all in there, and I still remember post-spraying around. I had a Reactor Plus. I didn't even have a cool bike yet. I still had my dad's Reactor that I painted for me to drive in, and I still remember I was jogging around, and all these guys are going by me, and I'm thinking like, what am I doing out here? You know what I mean? Like that's all I could think to myself was like should I be really hanging out with these guys? But I finished 5th. Yeah, it was. I got the horse got $12,000 for finishing 5th. So.
It's not a bad payday for you.
Oh, I thought I was like that was the best ever. Dave Pallone actually was against me too, right? Like it was just to be. I think it's sweet just to like go in behind the gate and just look to your right, look to your left, and you see all these guys that get to drive on the top stage all year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just to even be in one race against them was.
Well, it's
was
such
wicked.
a cool time for you to be getting some drives at Mohawk because of the sort of we got the young generation, we've got some in between, and then some of the guys who are probably near the end of their career.
Yeah.
I mean, they can drive as long as they
They
want.
want,
Some
yeah,
of these guys
exactly.
are
A lot of guys
legends
there I
and-
find now too drive because they like to, not because they have to. I hope I have that problem too when I turn 50. I've invested enough money that I can just do it because I love the sport and enjoy the game, not because I have to do it.
Yeah,
So.
so it's a cool opportunity right now to get that shot.
Well, everybody, they're all saying, "Oh, you're doing good. You're in now. You're in." And I'm like, just pump the brakes on being in. Like, I really, I hope you're all right. But the two guys that weren't there for me to get this work, it's not like it was just two. It was two top 5 guys.
Yeah.
Like Trevor and Dougie's top 5.
and
right?
it's harder to take one of their spots because they're more likely to steal the drive back. Right?
Yeah, 100. Well, look who they are, right? You know what I mean? Like, you're doing a great job, Youngie, but I got Trevor Henry sitting right here, man. Like, I appreciate it, you know what I mean? But it's just how it is, But
it's a good attitude to have because it's like I said with the baseball player, it's like if you're going to be pissed off when you get sent back down, it's going to be tougher to get back up.
Oh, 100%. Like, I've had a few trainers text me when I was doing good there. Oh, it looks like we're going to need a driver next summer, and I'm like. Yeah. No, I'll probably be at Grand River and Georgian full time. You know what I mean? If it's not the case, then I'll be living my best life. Yeah. But I'm just kind of looking at it as, very, very great opportunity and very fortunate. But I
think you got the right attitude, and now it's just a question.
Just
get the racing.
You have to hang out.
Bring your A game.
No, exactly. I got to
some races.
I got to get a Hambletonian someday, like Mr. McClure. He's up on me on that one. That's the jug would be my pace, and the Hamble would be my trot.
We'll put it in the background of the video.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get it right here. Exactly.
Well, I better let you get to the races.
No, I appreciate it. Oh, thanks.
So
appreciate
you're not late?
it. Nope, no problem. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Good luck tonight. How many are you going to win?
Hopefully one. One a night's always good.
All right.
One a night's always good.
Sounds good.